Hi, friends, and welcome back to Brave New Frontier, the podcast where we talk about the rise of the self made creator, the remote revolution, and the new tools redefining how we work and how they have opened doors that have never existed before. You can get in line and wait for someone to permit you in, or you can find your own freedom your way. Brave New Frontier is for the ones who refuse to be ignored, the ones who get knocked down and get back up smarter and stronger, those being you, dear friends, those being me, and those being the wonderful and amazing YouTuber, Miss Ashley Becker, who we are so lucky to have here today. Hi, Ashley. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing very well. This is so much fun. I have been a fan of your YouTube channel for a while. You just make the best booktube content, and now I finally get to talk to you.
Yes,
Yay!
this is so exciting.
This is exciting. I've been wanting to connect with other booktubers forever, and you are the first one. So I'm very, very excited.
Thank you.
All right. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your channel? Tell me about your channel, what inspired you to make it, what makes it special? You know, that little Ashley Becker zing that you bring to it, that special spice.
So I originally wanted to make it because I found myself talking to my Bookstagram stories about books, and it just was so many like stories back to back to back. And I was like, okay, I clearly want to be talking about books. I want to just get what I have to say, and I want to talk to people about it, and I want to get like the interaction aspect as well because people could respond to the stories. And I had been watching BookTube for quite a while, so I was like, okay, why don't I try doing this? I had just gone on like a medical leave for some disability. So I was like, okay, now's the time to kind of have a creative outlet, a bit of a social aspect as well, considering I was primarily dealing with medical stuff. So I found it kind of had the best of a bunch of different aspects where it could have the social aspect with connecting with other people that like books as well as not just being in my Bookstagram stories all the time. And I really have fun with editing as well.
Tell me a little bit more about that.
The editing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I love being able to kind of create different like graphics to insert into the videos and put little sound effects and like even just finding it. I find a lot of people on BookTube like to, or they end up saying that they don't really love the editing aspect. But I find that one of like my favorite parts. I get more nervous about filming. And then when I get to actually edit, that's when I have the most fun. Finding different graphics to insert or, yeah, like sound effects, music, different like transitions that you can put in depending on whatever like editing software you're using. So I started out on a Mac, so I was using iMovie. And then I switched over to like a Microsoft and HP laptop. So then I had to relearn a whole different software, which I actually found very fun.
Which
But
software
it
do you
was
use now?
DaVinci.
DaVinci. Okay,
Yeah.
nice. And you
Yeah.
do some
It
really
was,
creative stuff with that. Like, if I
yeah.
recall correctly, your old intro used to have it was pink background, and then there would be these typing sounds and your name would come up, and it was just this really soothing, very creative, very homey, cozy thing that led me into your video.
Thanks. I love that. Yeah, like I love the little sound effects of like the typing because I love that aspect in a lot of other BookTube channel like intros. And so I like kind of pulling different things that I like from other people's videos and just getting inspired by their videos. I don't watch a lot of TV, so when I'm not reading, I am just watching a lot of BookTube videos. Um,
That's the way
so
to
yeah,
do it, and you read a lot.
I do read a lot. When I was on medical leave, I think I read 160 or 190 books the first year, and then this past year, I read like 256. But I always say that if I'm reading too much, it's not a good sign. And if I'm reading too little, it's also not a good sign. So I'm definitely trying to find like a good balance this year.
So, what is a sweet spot for you? Because it's so different for every person. I know me. Last year, my Goodreads goal. Are you on Goodreads or Storygraph or both?
I use both.
Okay, so do I. So my
Yeah.
goal for them last year was 75, and I just nicked it by the skin of my teeth. And some of them were like short stories, some of them were that kind of a thing. And I still was like dying. I was struggling to get that much reading in because I'm not a fast reader. I wouldn't say I'm the slowest reader in the world, but I am not a fast reader. So I eased it down to 52 books this year. But some people, that's like not even a thing. They're like 52 books. What am I supposed to do with that? I handle that in 2 months. So for you, what is your sweet spot ish?
Okay, so I found in January of this year, I read 20 books, and then in February, I read 17. And both months, that was too much. Like, that was not, it's my main coping mechanism, reading. So that was too much. And then I didn't get to do the BookTube stuff as much. I'm not focusing on that. So, like, I didn't really post much on BookTube or Bookstagram in January or February, which I don't love. So this month I was hanging out with a lot of different friends. I had a friend visiting. I'm doing other hobbies outside of the house. I'm prioritizing doing other things. So this month I've still read quite a bit. I think I just finished my like 11th book, but that still is like a very good middle ground for me, I think.
That's pretty awesome. That is,
Yeah.
again, because like I could not even get close to I could not even get close to that. And so you've been growing your YouTube channel and you do so much reading for it. I mean, I know you're reading thick books too. I mean, you're reading like Fourth Wing and Onyx Storm and you're rereading Lord of the Rings. I mean, these are thick books. So how do you manage your time? How do you decide, I'm going to read this much and then I'm going to go work on my YouTube channel and do this? How do you do that?
I'm still working on that aspect because I read so much that it gets overwhelming for me to do monthly wrap ups, which are my favorite videos to make. But it is overwhelming when I like sit down to film and then I have my big list of books that I really want to talk about. But then I'm like, oh, but what if I get tired? And what if I start to sound like I don't really want to be doing this video anymore? Or something like that. So I think now that I'm trying to read less, I think it'll be easier for me to make more videos that aren't just wrap ups and monthly TBRs and prioritize more time doing like vlogs and like fun little things like that, as well as not reading so many that it's overwhelming because right now I don't balance the time well.
Now,
But that's
how
definitely a big
long
goal of mine.
Okay, nice. That's wonderful, and it's great for, us creatives to just be able to see, "Yeah, I don't do this well right now," and then just find ways to be able to get better at it, I think that's part of the process. I don't think anybody kind of at any point, even the experts, do everything perfectly. Just the people who have been at it longer and have field tested more things. It's just a matter of time and trial and error and finding out what works for you, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I think I've been on BookTube. Like I've had my channel for I think this is like just started my third year and I haven't made as many videos as I like, or I've even had videos that I've started and then I haven't finished because I've been like a bit of a perfectionist with that. So I'm trying to let that go as well.
Do you have any tips or tricks on how you kind of overcome the perfectionism feeling?
Think so for me when I was really struggling with the perfectionism is my brother is like one of my best friends and so I would send him like a finished video or send him the link on YouTube when it was just uploaded privately and be like, is this okay? And he's like, that's totally great. Or I send him a picture of like a still shot when I'm editing and be like, does this look weird? And he'd be like, no, like I didn't even notice. And I'm like, okay. So I think, especially if you're really struggling with perfectionism, kind of leaning on a bit of a support system or support, team to just friends and family, just being like, okay, like, can you like put me in check here? And then now I just kind of utilize that where I'm like, okay, well, in that video, he said it was fine. So that means it's fine in this video. And then also just noticing in myself when I'm watching other videos that I don't notice what they might be noticing
Right. That is a
when they're
very good
editing.
thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Because we're always our own worst critic, right?
Yes, totally.
Like, completely, and so I think it's good that you brought that well, I know it's good that you brought it up, but, a lot of times you hear people saying, "When you have people review your work, make sure you don't get someone who's just gonna cheer you on, make sure you get someone who gives you constructive criticism," and it's like, okay, well, like, I get that that's true in its place, but sometimes you do just need those cheerleaders. You do need someone who's just like, "No, this is good," and I'm not just saying that, it's a good thing, you did something good, it's great, go for it. So
Yeah.
it's really easy for us to be our own worst critics and then to search for someone else who's going to be our second worst critic. And then we forget that we really do need those cheerleaders. And so it's really great that you have been able to find somebody who kind of pulls you out of the criticism and says, "Hey, you're doing something awesome right here."
Yeah, and like even when you said that My brother came to mind as someone that he will do constructive criticism, but he leans more towards just like, no, it's great, it's fabulous, you're great, you're fabulous. But then immediately one of my other best friends came to mind where she will be like, maybe you could change this little thing. So it depends on my mood. Like if I really am like wanting to change something or get constructive criticism, if I'm in the right headspace to accept it, then I'll go to her and be like, what do you think of this?
That's a very good point because I have to do the same thing. Sometimes when I'll get feedback on manuscripts for my books, there's some times where if I'm just not in a good spot or if I'm tired or just like don't do it, I just have
Yes.
to actually tell myself don't look at it. And sometimes and there's so many factors because I have some beta readers and critique partners who they give you feedback and they phrase it in the nicest way. And so even if they are giving you like pretty big constructive criticism pieces, it feels good. And then there are other people who are lovely, nice people, and they want the best for you and your book or your YouTube video or whatever the case may be at the time. But the way that they phrase stuff is just mean.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, And so it really is this dance of trying to figure out, okay, what type of criticism or not criticism, and is this a moment where I really just need encouragement? Or okay, now I'm in a good spot, I can take the mean sounding ones because I know they just want the best, or I'm
Yeah.
right in the middle. So being able to kind of feel that out and not fight it, because I feel like some people, and I know I did this at one point, it's like, okay, if I want to be a creative, if I want to do this right, I have to be like thick skinned, heart of stone, nothing affects me all the time. And not really. There is like an element, of course, where you do have to let go of that person, you have to receive feedback, but it's okay to like work with your mental health and your mental state. I mean, that's really
Yes.
important because if your mental state is in a bad place, how are you ever going to be creative?
Yeah, that's very true. And that's true of like so many different aspects of life. Like even I work in this like for my job because I'm back to work now and I work in the same industry as my parents, but like my dad's at a much higher level and then my mom's like in the middle and then I'm the lower. And so if I want someone to kind of like kick me in gear here, I will call my dad and be like, "What do you think about this?" And his delivery is ruthless. His delivery
Yep.
is ruthless. Even if what he's saying isn't, like you said, even if what he's saying is not awful, he will just be like straight with you and he will interrupt. He will go in assuming that you haven't, but it's just there. So, yeah, you kind of have to figure out what you're needing at the time. Like you said, also, like your mental state is very important. So, and I also find that if I'm filming a really long video, like a long wrap up, I can't go straight into editing, although I'm tempted because it is my favorite part. I have to just be like, okay, I can't do that right now.
Because you're just tired. I mean, the creative process,
Yeah.
even though it is like a rewarding thing, it still like requires output. And if you do
Yeah.
too much, then you're gonna burn out. And so I wanted to ask, how do you handle burnout? Because I have had this bad habit in the past of like run to burnout and then stop and don't do anything until my tank is full again and then repeat. So I know that's probably not the ideal thing. So
Yeah.
how do you approach burnout?
So I'm have been like the exact same way. And I try and push through it, which of course makes it worse. And like everyone knows, if you push through it, it makes it worse. But it's hard to recognize yourself when you are approaching burnout because you think, well, at least for myself, I think like, no, I can push just a bit more. Like maybe I'm not at my full output capacity, and we're just like fooling ourselves here. But then I found myself like not posting on BookTube, not posting on my Bookstagram. And those two are my like favorite things to do. And I find that for a lot of people, like batch content works really well for them, both for Bookstagram and BookTube. So, like, especially for Bookstagram, a lot of the people with a lot of followers say, like, oh, I'm doing a bunch of batch content today. So they'll take like a lot of photos and do a lot of reels. And then on BookTube, they'll film like a couple videos in a day and just like change their clothes so it's not super obvious it's the same day. But for me, that would just be way too much. And so then I would have a lot to post for a short while. And I found myself doing that where I would have a lot of photos to post for like maybe 2 weeks or some videos to post for like once or twice a week for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then I would have nothing for months just because I'm like, okay, well, now I don't have the desire to, well, I have the desire to do it, but like I just can't, you know?
Yeah, I just don't have the energy. I have the desire, I
Yeah.
don't have the fuel.
Yeah, so it's definitely for me about finding what it works best for me and not just blindly listening to what other people are doing, even if they are more like quote unquote more successful, not just doing what they're telling you to do. I find that a lot with like self-help books or like creative nonfiction, like nonfiction books geared towards creative people, is there's like one way to do it and you have to be strict about it, but I don't find that to be true at all.
I agree. And I love how you said quote unquote more successful because like it's so
Yeah.
easy to measure your success based on a number of
Yes.
followers, number of subscribers, number of sales, number of whatever,
Yeah.
and it's so easy just to reduce it down to a number. And it's like, that's not why we're here. We're here because
Yes.
we love doing this thing. And I just want to point out, how successful it truly is to have those individual people who you really, really mean something to. I mean, just like how much your channel means to me. I love it. Every time I'm like, "Oh, Ashley posted, and then I get on and I get to see
Yeah.
it. And so, yeah, I feel like it's freeing what you just said, that successful is not just a number of followers. Successful is how you are doing the work.
Yes, and what you get out of it, like personally, and for creative people, like mentioned multiple times now with the editing, like even that is just so calming and soothing. Like I'll just usually throw on like Murder She Wrote in the background on the TV or something, and then have a headphone in. I'm just editing for hours, and it's just so calming. And yeah, so like maybe, I don't have the growth that some other people do, but I'm doing it in a way that makes me happy and fulfilled. And, like you also mentioned, like your mental state, like that's huge because if you get into a bad mental state, then, that comes across as like maybe disingenuous in your videos. Like it looks like you don't want to be doing this, or maybe then your editing isn't as like thorough as you'd want it to be just to get a video out for the
Absolutely
sake of
right.
it.
You're absolutely right. I mean, and then when you do see that you're like burning out and you're like you said, you're feeling disingenuous or it's coming across disingenuous. I can speak disingenuous when it's coming across like that. You know, the people who see that art are gonna pick up on that. They're gonna see it. They're gonna catch it, and then you really are not making progress even towards the numbers because of course the numbers are still great. They are kind
Yeah.
of, they're helpful in reference to being able to continue to keep doing what you love to do either by income or outreach or whatever the case may be, but that's not going to happen if all you're focusing on is that number and grinding
Yeah.
toward that number at any cost, even the cost of your creative process.
Yeah. I've definitely found that to be true. And like whoever, there's obviously validation in numbers,
Yeah.
and I always said when I first started my booktube channel, like to my friends and family, I was like, if I get like one subscriber, that's cool. That's one person that cares about or is interested in what I have to say about this topic that I'm so passionate about, And so then if you think about it, like if I see my growth isn't as high, then I think to myself, like, well, I'm doing it in a way that feels good for me, that works with my lifestyle, that works with where I'm at in my life right now, especially with like the disability stuff and being on medical leave. And then, it's, if you think about how many people would be in a room based on your like subscribers, like how many, or if you think of just like a group of people the size of your subscribers, like even if that's 10 people in a room that are interested in what you have to say, like that's so fun.
It is. And you know what? I think that is a great note to end on. So just don't picture your audience as like these vague floating heads that you need a lot of in order to hit a marker. Think of them as people that you are connecting to. That was fantastic, Ashley. All right. Any last thoughts before I close this out?
I think I said what I wanted to say.
Well, what you said was awesome. Okay. Thank you, friends, so much for being here today. Thank you for joining us to talk to the wonderful and amazing Ashley Becker. Her links are below. Go check out her YouTube channel. It is awesome. And also go check out her Instagram. Thank you so much for being here, Ashley. And thank you, friends. Again, how many times have I thanked the people for being here today. I don't know. I'm very, very grateful for you all because you are people, you are our audience, and I love to connect with you. I love to chat with you. If you enjoyed this video, check out one of our last ones. One that you might like is the recent interview with the author S.Q. McGrath, who is also talking a lot about the creative process and enjoying the creative process. Or go check out any and all of our past ones. Maybe you could subscribe to our YouTube channel. And yeah, that's us. Stay creative, friends. Have a great day and God bless. Bye-bye.